Welcome everybody to Edge of the Rabbit Hole, the live stream show. I am Mike Ricksecker, Haunted Road Media. With me as always is Vanessa Hogle, and of course our chat Shananigator, Shana, down in the chat room. And with us tonight is Rob Gutro, returning. Last time we had him on, it was one of our very first live streams and had some technical difficulties. So great to have him back on, and we're going to get into some great stuff this evening about communicating with loved ones from spirit, which is, I think, a great topic. But before we do that, of course, we've got to take care of a couple of housekeeping things, which that's the first time I've ever used that term on the show before. We have a few things to talk about. And I'll toss the chat up here real quick so everybody can see themselves, of course. And I know people have been asking about the Goldenrod Showboat, and there is Shana, and she can probably answer many of those questions better than I, because she was actually out there yesterday. And really what's going on, there's been a lot of flooding within that area. If you haven't seen the flooding video yet on YouTube, go watch it. It's pretty interesting. Shana got to show me her hometown with a bunch of water in it all over the place. Very interesting. And we went to go check out the Goldenrod and what was going on with that, because we'd seen some photographs from friends of hers that had been out there, and the water was creeping further and further up. The boat was moving actually toward the road, and so of course there's a lot of concern about that, because she hasn't been seaworthy for almost 2 years now. She was basically dry docked. I don't even want to say docked, just run aground there. So yeah, we went to go check that out the other day, and then they went to go take a look at it yesterday, and there was a lot of water within the boat. It's going to take a lot of work to get it out of there once the water recedes and it lands. And the big concern, of course, is where it lands, and if it's going to suffer more damage. So there's already going to be damage from the water that's gotten inside, and there may be more damage from how it lands, and what they're going to have to do to get in there and get the water out. So there's been some misreports from news media in the area saying that it's sunk. It hasn't sunk, but it's not in good shape right now. So
right?
Yeah, I have to clarify that. I know Shana put out a post earlier today trying to clarify all that stuff. Heard from Jake Medford, the Vice President of the Riverboat Association, earlier tonight. They're talking about maybe setting up a GoFundMe, which is awesome. When they get that, when and if they get that up, I'll share that out. I know Sean's going to share that out. But also, right now, what you can do is just go to, and I'll put the link up here. You can go to goldenrodshowboat.com. And they do have a donate button there, so you can go there. Whatever, every little bit helps. I've already received some feedback today from people that are willing to give a little bit. One of the things, of course, we always got encounters with the paranormal. So I've been taking orders for this today, and of course, part of the proceeds from the book go toward the restoration and preservation of the Goldenrod. And so I've been giving them those donations once a quarter. Basically right now, because of what's going on with the boat, I'm just going to give it to them as it comes. So I'll take care of the bookkeeping on my end. I give it to them once a quarter just because it's easier for bookkeeping and all that, but I'll just give it to them as it comes right now. Kind of like what we did for Kat Gash the other year, maybe it was last year, when she was having those concerns with her husband, and so I just gave her the royalties as they came. So so please go out to goldenrodshowboat.com or order a book, or if they get the GoFundMe set up, then donate that way. Help out whatever you can do, whatever you can. That would be greatly appreciated. So that's that bit. Also. Okay, somebody's saying something about audio. Audio's good for... Okay, so people do hear. Okay, so one person had an audio thing. So.
I'm going to pull it on my phone so I can keep control of the chat, or so I can look in the chat too.
Okay, very good.
I just never get to see it.
Right, you never see it, so...
I never see it. Oh, real quick, while everybody's watching, before we introduce Mr. Fabulous over here.
Right.
Finished the book, yay. All the
Vanessa
pictures,
finished her book.
everything is all sent into Mike, so super stoked about it. Mike, tell me if it sucks so I can fix it before anyone else sees it.
Well, there's always some editing. But it never sucks.
I tried something different this time. Instead of doing chapters, I actually did it in experiences. So it's a little different. Huh?
I'm looking forward to it, really.
I had a good / horrible time writing it. So we'll see how it goes. I'm super stoked, so I just want to see what everybody thinks. So yay!
Cool.
Okay.
Two other quick things, of course. We've got Ghosty, so if you haven't got your Ghosty yet, check out his Facebook page, which is Ghosty HRM, GHOSTIE. He's been around a lot of different places. There's some other stuff I haven't posted yet. He was in the Bahamas recently, and a couple of historic homes, so we'll get that stuff up there pretty soon here. Also,
Ghost gets around more than I do.
He does. He's around more than I do, and I travel a lot.
I know.
Yeah, and Shana was like, "Hi, Ghosty." All right, and Tammy's saying, "Behave, Ghosty." Yeah, there are some issues with Ghosty in a sock last week. Rob, you missed that. Rob's eyes went like this. Yes, Ghosty in a sock.
We'll talk about that later.
We'll talk about that one later. Also, we put out there on the on our Facebook pages and the Edge of the Rabbit Hole Facebook page, the T-shirt idea. So apparently, you guys were cool with being called the Mad Hatters. So there's the finished product. I think I'm going to do a little bit. Probably do the teeth thing with the Cheshire Cat rather than just the moon, or maybe you guys just like the moon there. But there it is, Edge of Rabbit Hole live stream show, Mad Hatters. We're all a little mad here, only on Haunted Road Media. So glad you guys liked it, and if you have any other ideas of what we can do for that T-shirt or another T-shirt idea, this is what we're going to go with first, because everybody really liked that. So
it's a nice shirt.
Yeah, we'll let you know when those come out. We're going to have to place an order and get that taken care of. So.
My goodness. I'm going to write down some of these names that are in the chat, Mike, because I don't think we're going to be able to remember them all.
Yeah, and Emma's saying that she also likes Matter, so she's chiming in that she likes it.
Hey.
I think everybody's like that. Nobody has come up with another idea or has said that they don't like it, so you guys are the Mad Hatters down there in the chat room with your chat, with your chat Shananigator, which just seems to fit really well. You have the Shananigator down there with the Mad Hatters. It works.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's get to Rob. I'm sorry for making you wait, Rob. We just need to take care of a few things. So, back with us is Rob Gutro. He's a psychic medium. Is an author of many books talking about ghosts and spirit, the afterlife, pets in the afterlife, which he's spoken on here before about, which is really interesting. But what we're going to have him talk about this evening, and actually this is his idea. I just said, Rob, what do you want to talk about? And he's been doing a presentation lately on communicating with loved ones from spirits. So, Rob, I'm just going to throw it right at you. Tell us what's going on with this topic, what you've been up to lately, and introduce yourself a little bit first for those viewers who aren't familiar with you.
Okay. Well, thanks, Mike and Vanessa. It's good to be back, actually. And for those who don't know me, I am a medium. I'm on the ghost tracking group in Maryland, and I write 4 books: 2 about pets, 2 about people, and ghosts and spirits, and I'll explain the difference there. I do a lot of talks at the Long Manor in Maryland. We have a program there that we work with the Parks Department, and one of the talks is about recognizing signs from loved ones, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. By trade, by the way, I'm a scientist. I'm a meteorologist, so I do that full time. I don't do the medium thing full time. There's, you can't make a living out of it, but I help people as much as I possibly can. So I maintain blogs and Facebook pages and all that stuff that you taught me, Mike, so that I can help people out.
That's awesome. Yeah. So what I find interesting, just from I guess this will kind of lead into your topic a little bit. Belmont Manor. When I was last out there, there was just a couple of events out there, an investigation. Now it seems like you're doing a lot more out there. Now you're giving these presentations. So how did all that come about?
That came about through Margaret Ehrlich, who's the manager of Inspired Ghost Tracking, and she worked with the Parks Department to put these together, and she asked for members of the team for topics. And of course, I've been giving talks on a number of things, so they gladly took all the talks that I give, and so I go up there every month and give different talks on different subjects.
Yeah.
Now, Rob, I have a question for you. I did a show the other night where I was with Julia Syracusa, Phil Syracusa, and Marie Vargas. We were discussing the Horsepower Chronicles on Paranormal Zone TV, and an interesting thing came up that I knew I needed to discuss with you. Because this is, bring out your scientist for me, okay? Because that's what I'm addressing here. You and I talked on a previous show about the effect that water has on paranormal activity.
Yes.
Okay, and how it can amplify and everything else. Phil has had a lot of paranormal activity around him his entire life, and I found out during that show that he was actually born during a hurricane.
Okay.
And I wondered if there could be a correlation to that, because it just seemed to fit the feeling and the vibe that he has. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, certainly there's a tremendous amount of energy in a hurricane. Really, a hurricane is basically hundreds of thunderstorms that are rotating at an incredible speed. So when you've got all that energy, not only temperature energy, but atmospheric energy, it's going to be able to add to any paranormal activity. And depending on him and his genetics, maybe if he's predisposed to have sensitivity, it may increase that, especially at his birth. That's a scientific unknown, though.
But it is a possibility.
Anything's possible when it comes to spirit.
I just wanted to make sure I wasn't reaching too far when we were discussing that. It's just something about it struck me as odd, because it's not something that is very common.
Mm-hmm.
And for a person to be born under those circumstances or during those circumstances, and then to experience a life literally full of these types of occurrences, to me there had to be a connection. However small, there had to be a connection. And maybe it just kicked the door open just a little bit further. So I was curious. Thank you for answering that.
Well, I will tell you a scientific fact that you may not know, but during most births happen during low pressure systems, storms, because inside the body there's high pressure, and outside low pressure systems are basically storms. So naturally high flows to low to equalize, to create an equilibrium. So all of the high pressure wants to get out of the body, and that's when babies are born, mostly during storms.
Wow.
That's really interesting.
That surprised me enough, but yeah.
I love it. Rob relates the whole thing to weather. It's fantastic.
I love it. Throw
awesome.
some signs on me. Make me a happy gal. I love that.
You're bringing out the geek in me,
You know, geek is totally fine, hon. Don't ever let anybody knock it.
Excellent.
So, now, your work with, I guess let's just dive into your topic, communicating with loved ones from spirit. And I know that you yourself have had that experience with having some communication with a loved one from spirit. So those experiences. I mean, just from the stories I've heard, of course, it seems like everybody's experiences are different. So how have you kind of compartmentalized all this into a topic like that, with everybody's experiences so different?
Well, spirit can communicate in a number of ways, and they can. Everybody's experiences basically add to the methods that spirit can communicate. So, before I get to the different ways that spirit can communicate, it's important for me to make a distinction, because what happens after we die is that we make a choice to stay earthbound, which is what I call a ghost. And or we cross over and join the energies of the universe, paradise, heaven, whatever, and that's what I call spirit. So they're the same energies, but it's a different location. They also use different emotional energies, and that also helps them energize to communicate. They have to get energy to communicate. So physical energies that both entities use are heat, light, water, electricity. But the difference is in the emotional energy, because emotional energy that powers ghosts are negative emotional energy like fear, anxiety, depression, nervousness, anger. Love, faith, and hope, however, power spirit. So that's why when our loved ones come through, it's because we have a lot of love for them, we have hope and faith that they'll come back to us and give us messages. And that strengthens them and enables them to do that.
Now, there's a question though. One of the things that I hear a lot from people, and it's one of the main reasons I get contacted for personal situations, is because they can't contact or feel their deceased loved one around them, regardless of the amount of love that they have. And it makes me wonder, because I'm always wondering, if it's a mental block. Could it be a feeling of unworthiness? Could it be a feeling of guilt? So you have counteracting emotions. They're fighting against each other.
Well, there's actually a couple of things that prevent us from seeing signs from spirit. And one of them is guilt. The other one is grief. Grief and guilt act as a block for seeing or observing signs from spirit. Sometimes people will feel guilty that they weren't by the bedside of somebody when they passed. And that's an important point. I get asked that question a lot. Why should I feel terribly guilty? How can I get over it? And the answer is, as people, we make the choice to pass either by ourselves or pass with people around us. And sometimes people want to pass by themselves. They want to wait until everybody gets out of that room and then pass. So don't feel guilty if you weren't by the person's side, because they chose to pass without you by their side. And the reason is that they know that it would cause more emotional trauma for you in your life to see them pass before your eyes.
That's an excellent point. And I've heard stories like that before, and I've also heard the stories where people hold on because they want to try to give that one last message before they pass. So it's kind of interesting how there's almost like a little bit of a choice there, for that final moment. We do have a question from the chat room, and I have to scroll back up a little bit. Megan Talbert, who's also in Maryland. Is it easier, harder to communicate as a spirit versus a ghost, or vice versa?
That's a good question. It's easier for a spirit to communicate because spirits can actually communicate with us anywhere in the world at any point in time, and they can actually communicate with multiple people at the same time. Ghosts, however, are limited to the location where they choose to stay. So therein lies the difference. Otherwise, as I mentioned, they use the same physical energies and they use different emotional energies. And it all depends on how much energy is available where they are.
Okay.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Now, I do have a question for you. Another thing that I have found when I'm discussing situations like these with people, different clients, people that contact me, is it's harder for them to receive a message from somebody who died tragically or quickly than it is from somebody who died from a long drawn-out illness. And I was wondering if you've noticed the same thing.
Actually, I have not noticed a difference between the two. I really think it depends on the strength of the personality of the person who passed and the receptivity of the person to whom the message is intended. So we all maintain our memories, personalities, and knowledge when we pass, and we choose to stay as a ghost or a spirit. So sometimes those who pass have strong personalities. They may be talkers. Others may be shy and reserved. Case in point, when my dad passed away in 2008, my dad, he was very quiet. But when he passed away, he started coming through to me a lot. When my mother died in 2013, I no longer heard from my dad. Because in life, my dad used to let my mother do all the talking. And now she does on the other side. So that's how it works.
Oh, funny.
We do tend to matter.
Yeah. Now let me ask you. Let me ask you this, Rob, because this has been a interesting experience for me, and I don't know if you've necessarily dealt with this one. You probably have. Not too long ago, I had a dream in which I believe that my grandparents communicated with me from beyond, or however you want to word it, within that dream. Now, they've both have. I mean, my grandfather passed away in 2010. My grandmother just a couple of years ago. And that's another one where it seemed like my grandfather was around from time to time, and then once my grandmother passed, he seemed to, both of them, I mean, didn't really hear from them very much at all, but had this dream that I really believe was a visit from them. So I guess the question is how prevalent do you think it is that that spirits can communicate through dreams like that?
That's actually the most common way that spirits can get messages to us is through dreams. Yes, and sometimes there's a difference between a dream and a visitation, because in a visitation, it means it's a much deeper experience where you can sometimes even feel their clothing or their hand, perhaps.
Right. Yeah, and I believe this was a visitation because I did get all those sensations with this. Yeah.
Okay, so that's a really strong bond of love right there. The other interesting thing, too, is that I found in communications with spirit is that they tend to come around on birthdays, anniversaries, and holidays. And anniversaries could mean anniversaries of their passing, anniversaries of their marriage, anniversaries of anything else. It doesn't matter. And the reason for that is that if you think of how we live in the physical world, when do we call our relatives and our friends, right? Birthdays, anniversaries, and holidays, special occasions. And that's when spirit usually sends signs.
Now, I have a question for you, just because, actually, it's kind of twofold. My grandmother never left. She's with me all the time. She has actually been seen by others, including Dennis Eslock, when I was at the 360 cabin in Virginia. He asked me who the woman was, and he described her, and I'm like, ask Grammy. But she died right before I was to turn 2, and we were born on the same day. So I know that she's still here, still kicking it. But when I was in England and Scotland, and this wasn't noticed until after I got home and started going through the photos, there are controversial, because of how people think of them, orbs. Bright orange. The brightest orange you can imagine. And we actually caught a random picture of one off the pier in Whitby, England, and that damn thing is 500 to 1,000 feet away.
Wow.
And it's showing up the size of a beach ball. Like a beach ball on there, and there's nothing reflective. We have them bright orange in different areas in front of a church that's in a very, very, very old cemetery right above Hellfire Caves, which I know that I had been there before. And there's no windows. There's nothing reflective. And it is huge and is bright orange. Do you think that sometimes those that do stay with us, or that come and try to spend time with us, that they show themselves up in that fashion? Or was that just random folks just saying, hey, Vanessa's on vacay?
No, our loved ones actually do come with us on vacation, and they do that because they want to protect us.
Yes.
In my book, Pets in the Afterlife, I mentioned that in 2009, I happened to be in Puerto Rico with my husband, and we were walking around, and we just chose a certain direction to go, and long story short, we bumped into a dog walker, and that dog walker had one Weimaraner that he was holding. And the Weimaraner is the breed of dog that I had that passed as a puppy. And then I heard in my head my puppy tell me, I'm still here, Dad. And then I realized it was the anniversary date of his passing. And that was in Puerto Rico. and I wasn't even thinking about it. So yes, our loved ones can appear anywhere, anytime around the world. So she was following me, making sure you stay out of trouble.
Wow. Yeah. That just breaks my heart.
Yeah, that's actually very touching. Let me let me ask you this, Rob. Sometimes loved ones pass that maybe we were very close to, and we never hear from them. But yet there's others that they might come visit and they'll go for a long time, don't know where, and then all of a sudden they might be back again. It could be years later. So it seems like there's nothing. There's no pattern. It seems very, very random when somebody passes. If they may communicate with you and how often they may communicate with you. It's I think we all kind of wonder. Okay, is there is there a party going on the other side that they'd have to step out of occasionally to to communicate? Or
It's irrelevant.
They're exploring the universe. They're a little busy right now.
Right. I mean, they could be, they exploring the universe. They're out on Mars somewhere, and they're like, oh yeah, maybe we should go visit Mike real quick.
Yeah, and that's right, Vanessa. Time is irrelevant on the other side.
Right.
There is no such thing. Time is actually a physical thing. So, on Earth we have 365 days that make a year. I think on Mars, I think it takes 5 of our years to make a year over there, or something like that, or maybe that's Jupiter. So time is irrelevant. Time is actually wherever you are. But sometimes spirits don't have anything to say to us. Sometimes they just like to take the quiet in the back seat and watch us. Other times spirits will come to us with different messages or different times, and it's because we need to hear something for some reason. And there's a lot of ways. We haven't yet talked about all the different ways that spirit can communicate with us, but there's a lot of ways that they can bring messages to us.
Okay, well let's talk about some of those then.
Okay, we mentioned dreams, but one of the other common ways that spirit can send signs is by using coins, by apporting a coin. That means apporting means moving from one place to another. Coins are primarily a way of communication because they're light and they're easy for a spirit to get enough energy to transport. The trick is, that I've learned, is that if you look at the year on the coin, that may give you a clue as to who the spirit is. So that's one way.
Okay, I've heard of that, yeah.
Other ways are spirits can manipulate things in nature. What do I mean by that? Birds, butterflies, dragonflies, feathers. They can manipulate or influence things in nature to behave erratically on usually an occasion like a birthday, anniversary, or holiday. Oftentimes you'll hear stories of people who will say that on their... One woman actually told me that on her son's, the anniversary of her son's passing, a robin showed up at her window. This was in January in the north. And it kept coming back 3 days at the window and staring at her.
Okay.
For a while and then flying off. It was around the anniversary of his passing.
Oh,
and she thought, wait a minute, here I am in Minnesota. It's the winter. What's a robin doing out here?
Right, yeah.
And she realized it was from her son.
Now, that I've seen videos on that. I've seen where people have actually been in a cemetery visiting their loved one who's passed, and a bird will stop and just sit on the top of the headstone, and then I've actually seen them where they fly over and actually sit on the person's hand. All birds don't do that, And to me, that is just absolutely amazing. You mentioned something else that I find utterly fascinating. I was talking with Gwen Clapper, which she's in the chat. I'm writing y'all down. I'm watching them babies. We were talking the other day, and what you just said rang true with me. You always hear about people saying that they were scratched by a ghost and they think it's something bad or pushed or something else. And it got me to thinking that, like you said, they'll move coin because it's so much lighter. It's so much easier to manipulate. I wonder if there is a chance that when they are in ghost or spirit form, either one, that it takes kind of the energy of what it would take when you're coming out of a paralytic state. You know, when you've been paralyzed and you're not quite certain how much energy it's going to take in order to make a movement. And so the more you try, the more energy you put behind it, and then, oh boy, you finally moved that toe, you might finally move that hand. And if maybe it's like that. So when they finally work up enough energy to touch you, to let you know that they're there, they push you.
That's a great analogy. Yeah, I absolutely can see that they're not used to moving with such force, and so it happens that way. That's a great observation, Vanessa.
Yeah,
Thank
interesting.
you. It's right there. You know, I don't even know why.
Another method, and we hadn't gotten to this yet, but I'm going to throw it out there because Gwen brought it up. She said that my dad used to smoke a cherry pipe years ago, way before it passed, and still get a smell of it from time to time. And that's like something that I'll get from time to time. Like when I said that my grandfather, used to visit, and I would usually know that he was around because I would just get that hint of smell of just him. It's kind of like it smells like Grandpa's nearby. More recently, I've picked up on occasion my uncle's aftershave, and he just passed away last summer. And there's been a couple times here where it's like, it smells like Uncle Paul, just out of nowhere, and it's like, yeah, and I don't have his aftershave anywhere around here.
Well, it's our strongest emotional attachment.
Yeah.
That's what we know first from birth. We know the smell of mom.
Right. Yeah. So that's another way in which they kind of let their presence known is through the sense of smell.
Through scent, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and that's definitely a very strong one. It could be something like baking cookies that your grandmother used to do, or your mother's favorite flower, or something like that. Other ways that they can come through too are, of course, there's physical movements. We talked about that, Vanessa, about how they can be physical, but you can feel like a gentle touch on your shoulder, or you can feel your hair being tugged. I felt that many times, actually. You might be able to see them out of the corner of your eye. Sometimes you might see even a partial or full body apparition. I've seen only a couple, and they're very startling, actually. Sometimes, for people who are very sensitive, or for people who are mediums, sometimes our loved ones will share, or loved ones will share pain of death.
Yeah.
I experienced that. I've experienced that a lot. I mean, I've been hit, punched, kicked, pushed downstairs, stabbed, shot. And I felt a sword go through me when I was in England.
Oh, wow.
It sucks, doesn't it?
It does, but you just tell them to stop. So.
Well, I mean, but you've got to get the message first. I did a reading for a woman in Dallas, and I had no information at all on the person. And the only way for him to get his message across that who he actually was to tell me he loves NASCAR and his favorite band and his ex-girlfriend's name, but to also show me the man that she was with and that they beat him to death and set him on fire. And so I got to feel a portion of that. And that sucks ass. Charles, your mom will take you out in a minute. Hush. Sorry. The doggy. She's whining.
Doggy. Yeah, and I know that, like Shana's experienced that, a number of times that we've, been out on investigations, or maybe just, at a cemetery, and, like she'll feel a pain in her head or something like that. So, that they're reaching out and telling her, hey, this is what happened to me.
It hurts.
Yeah, and it's really not to be malicious, but it's the way to confirm their identity. So some of the other things too, sometimes you'll hear them, especially if you're like in the twilight stage of your sleep, or maybe when you're in the shower. But when I gave a lecture last week, I asked people, do they ever hear voices in the shower, or do they ever hear music in the shower? And they do, and they say that there's nobody else in the house and there's no radio on, and they couldn't explain it. And that's what trying to get through to you.
You know what? It's interesting. You bring up the running water like that. We were doing an investigation with Lee Ehrlich a few weeks back at Mineral Springs Hotel in Alton, Illinois, and there was a fountain going, and he actually kind of showed us and taught us how you can actually get EVPs and hear voices off of the water. So somehow they are, manipulating that sound of the water running, bubbling into an actual voice. And once we figured out kind of where it was like, wow, yeah, you can actually hear a lot within the water like that.
Wow, it's fascinating.
It really is. And so
Well,
I'm guessing that's where the showers come into play.
well, it's all about energy. So heat, light, water, electricity, and electricity, of course, is the big one. That's
Sure.
the easiest thing for spirits, of course. As you well know, Mike, when you go on investigations, they play with your batteries.
Oh yeah.
They play with flashlights. They turn TVs on, radios, anything really. I was actually doing a public ghost tour at the Belmont about 2 months ago, and we were in a room where I've sensed a little girl since I started going there a year ago, and I learned her name and all that, and I asked her if she had a message for everybody, and suddenly the TV went on by itself, and there was a room of like 15 people who were standing there, and the TV remote, as it turned out, was in a drawer that was closed, away from everybody. So she was playing, but electricity.
Okay, electricity. You opened up this Pandora's box. I got one for you.
Okay.
I got one for you. Okay, so Saturday night, I am remote viewing for NP Paranormal. They're in Sheffield, England. And they were doing it via Facebook Live. And they had, which they normally do live stream, but the reception's it's all poopy. So they were doing Facebook Live, and Dave had like 56% on his phone. And within 60 seconds, it dropped to less than 11%.
Oh my gosh.
Just boom. So
Wow.
they go ahead, they had to pop out. So they finish everything up without it being live. And that's about maybe 10 minutes or so, packing up all their gear and stuff. And he messages me on WhatsApp, his phone went from 11% to 38% without being on a charger.
Wow.
Oh wow.
So I've never heard of that. So it sucked it down.
Good either.
That's pretty bad.
Off, and then put some back on.
Put it back. Rob,
It sounds like that ghost was feeling guilty.
Yeah, maybe.
A little.
Didn't mean to take it all. Here, have some back.
Right, exactly.
Right.
He was a monk. He didn't want to be greedy.
Oh, see, there you go.
Yeah.
Rob, we have a question for you from the chat room. This is from Starry Night. It says, Rob, would you consider a spirit going through you as the closest encounter you can have? It's happened to me twice.
That's definitely a close encounter. It's happened to me a couple of times. And it is. I don't know how it affected you, Starry Night, but I got chills the first time. And that was another experience in England when one of Henry VIII's queens, Catherine Howard, ran screaming down the hallway in Hampton Court Palace, ran right through me.
Oh wow!
And I saw
Catherine
her,
Howard,
and she
okay.
just it was interesting.
So what do you think when they go through you and they stay for a minute? How do you feel about that?
I'm just really careful. I tell them that this seat is occupied.
There you go.
Okay, now, how do you do that? Because I'm not aware of doing it.
Vanessa wants to know.
Now,
She wants specifics.
I can't kick them out.
You have to tell them that they're unwelcome there. And if you think that that's going to happen to you, just what I normally do is surround myself with white light. Like I project a blanket of white light around me so that they can't get it.
You might have to explain that one to some viewers, because I know a lot of people talk about blanket myself in white light. How does one blanket themselves in white light?
Well, it's basically all imagination, because your imagination is it's energy. Your thoughts are little electrical impulses in your brain, and you can project those thoughts and create like a construct. basically enveloping yourself with energy. If you're familiar with, if you're familiar with the superhero, the Green Lantern, who creates constructs of energy with his ring,
you would go all Green Lantern.
It's the same. It's the same premise. I'm a superhero fan.
You are, and I believe you have dressed as Green Lantern before, yes?
I have.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a great analogy. It is. Yeah. That's pretty good.
Damn.
So it's all about energy, really, and you can project the energy. By the way, for everybody listening that may think that they don't have the ability to get messages from ghosts and spirits, or may not have the ability to be a medium, you actually can, because think about it this way. If you go into a room and there is a group of people that you don't know, you'll often find somebody that you just feel like you want to walk up and start talking to, maybe get to know them a little bit. Conversely, you may find out that you may think that there's a person that you definitely have to avoid, and you avoid them. Well, what you're doing is you're reading the energy of these people, and that's what mediums do. But we just read energy from dead people and dead animals. Does that make sense?
Well,
That's
it makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me. I hope the viewers understand that. And if you have any questions, by all means, throw them down there in the chat room. Anything about what Rob is talking about, and we'll bounce it off of him.
It's really cool because I'm watching it on my phone, and they're just talking about all this stuff amongst themselves. It's great.
Yeah, no, they do that all the time. They have a great chat going. We love our chat room, the Mad Hatters, as they're now affectionately called.
50 people in there right now.
We've got the chat Shananigator Shana down in there, and yeah, they they're talking about what we're talking about. Sometimes they get their own subject going or whatever, but then always come back to what's going on with the show. And Rob, they've had a great discussion about exactly what we've been talking about, and those couple of questions thrown in. So by all means, there's like a 20 to 30 second delay, but if you guys have questions, throw them out there. So.
Well, and Bob, you were mentioning about energy and everything, and I think it's one thing, since we are encouraging people to be able to read people on their own, and the fact that they don't have to come to people like me and you. They can do this. They've got the ability. When you speak about the energy drain from, that's one of the things that spirits are going to use. They'll pull on our energy or the energy around us. How important do you believe it is for after experiences to make sure that you refuel? When people are trying to do this, do they need to make sure that they're not alone, that they have sustenance on hand? I mean, what are your experiences with that?
Yeah, it's absolutely critical, because what they're doing, what we're doing as mediums is we're reading the energy and we're expelling our own energy. So not only do we expel physical, emotional energy, but physical energies as well. So it's important to have maybe something to eat. We always, after investigation, I always take a shower, and that helps replenish the water energy, helps replenish me. You can listen to soft music. Do something that you find relaxing in order to just build up charge in your own batteries.
Now, that's one thing that
Rob,
I
gotta throw this out there, because you did, and Vanessa, I don't mean to interrupt, but he mentioned food, and I've always heard, I know it works because I've tried it. Chocolate. What is it about chocolate that works? I know it's good, but it really does work in recharging oneself. I mean, I know they had the whole thing in Harry Potter, and they showed that, but it's actually true. When you lose that energy like that, especially like a spiritual energy, when you've been having some of those types of interactions, that chocolate will give you like a little pep of energy back like that. And I don't think it's just from the sugar. I think there's something within chocolate itself.
Scientifically, it triggers endorphins, and that empowers us and gives us a rush of energy. So that's what it is. There is some science behind it.
All right.
Well, it makes sense, because I would always carry like those power bars with me, and they were always like the chocolate and peanut power bars, because when I go through one of my little tidbits, and Gwen from BPI, she can attest to this, you gotta feed me after, okay? I'm just saying it, I don't know, put me in a corner and slingshot a cheeseburger down my throat. You gotta do something.
There you go.
Because it's just too much, it's too much energy used up. So Chocolate's wonderful, though. It's a wonderful substitute for cheeseburgers.
I think Mike and I would find coffee a good
Oh, yeah.
adjustment.
Yeah, and Dunkin' Donuts, I'm more on board with the Dunkin' Donuts now than I am with the Starbucks. Sorry, Starbucks.
Attaboy.
But there is a question from the chat room. Emma Bejic asks, what is your take on using spirit boxes for communication?
I haven't used the spirit boxes. I've been, the group that I belong to have used spirit boxes, and sometimes it takes a long time to get something through there. So if you're going to use a spirit box, I would say make sure you have a lot of patience and you are willing to spend about 4 or 5 hours, and you may only get a couple of words. That's just my experience.
Yeah. Well, for me personally, spirit boxes give me a headache, so... I mean, and Vanessa, I don't know if you've ever chimed in on the whole spirit box debate.
Well, I'm picky. Go figure, right? I have seen people use it, and I've seen them claim that everything that comes through it is scripture. I mean,
right.
By golly, and you hear that whole sentence, and I'm sitting there thinking, what kind of crack are you smoking? Because I'm not here. And so, but then I've worked with other teams like NP and BPI and stuff where Gwen is very, very, very much schooled on what to listen for because she's an ex-police officer and EMT. So she knows.
Yeah, so she's trained with the radio. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's quite versed in it. So I trust certain people with it. The spirit box amongst the masses, I'm not so. I'm a little weird on it. I'm not saying it isn't valid. I'm saying I'm not backing it 100%.
Yeah, and maybe that's what it is. Somebody that's that has a lot of experience like that, using the radio, would be ideal for that. Whereas, just the general populace, to me, whenever we've used a spirit box, and I'm with guys that are like, oh yeah, that's something, I'm like, yeah, kind of like you were saying, Vanessa, what are you smoking? Because I don't hear that, or I'm distinctly hearing it as radio chatter. And I know people are saying, the people that say, these things, truly work, are like, well, it's like a 13th of a second. It's like, how much, you can get a couple full syllables, within, fractions of a second. So, yeah, you're picking up a radio chatter.
Well, and Ghostly Cowboy, who has been in the chat, because I'm using my phone, I can see it, he actually had one of the better sessions I've ever heard that's on his YouTube channel. And he was asking very specific questions. That's another key thing. If you're going to use a spirit box, random answers aren't good enough for me.
Right. I have
answers. And he was asking, what color is my hat?
Right.
Like that, to where, it's one color. You can't get it wrong, And he was getting the correct answers. And to me, that was quite impressive.
Yeah, and I have seen it before where, using a couple of different devices like that, and you're getting the same answers back from each device. It's like, okay, to me that's a little bit more legit. But not meaning to get off of. We're talking with Rob, who doesn't really use them. So, but the question was thrown out there. Do you use those? But I think, Rob, you kind of use your body, you use more your senses, which is kind of...
Yeah, I use my head.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about it. On a different topic, I get a lot of questions from people about ashes, and then about what happens to suicide and murder victims on the other side. And I wanted to address those if I could.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Sometimes people, mostly people with pets, will tell me that they have their ashes in their house. And sometimes people have human ashes in their house. Now, I'm not a proponent for that. I can see having pets' ashes in your house because my pets' ashes are going to be buried with me. But human ashes are something different. And I think that human ashes need to just go to their favorite place, or just sprinkle them wherever the person liked to be. there's always residual energy in ashes. They don't necessarily act as a big magnet, but they can act as a slight magnet for spirit. Somebody just wrote me and told me that the ashes of their uncle are in their house, and the woman's mother feels like he doesn't want her to leave the house or sell the house. So the answer is really, if you have ashes in your house, think about the person that they belong to and help them get rest, or sprinkle them where they belong, or where they want to belong. If you have ashes of pets, I would say, just when you pass, and if you get cremated, just have them, put in with you, and then sprinkle where you like to go. But ashes can act as a draw rather. In terms of murders and suicides, everybody passes. Everybody crosses over. I just want to put that out there right now. There's a huge difference between what happens with ghosts and spirits and religions. And for everybody out there, religions are all created by man. But spirituality is not associated with any religion. Spirituality is basically just the facts. What happens after we die, what energy is, and where it can go, either staying on Earth or crossing over. So people who are murdered or people who commit suicide can all cross over. Sometimes they get stuck behind and they get confused. They wake up in energy form.
On my computer, it looks like we get.
Uh-oh. Did we lose Vanessa?
Yeah, she broke up, and now I just see a solid. She's got a cigarette in her mouth.
Okay.
All right. Well, maybe she'll come back.
So I just wanted to throw those things out about, because those are two common questions that I get.
Yeah, no, that's great. We do have a couple of more questions from the chat room. So another question from Starry Night Question. Rob, do you believe being sensitive is inherited and generational?
I do believe that it is inherited. I know in my family, my mother had it. Turned out my grandfather had it on my mother's side. So it does run in the family. But that doesn't mean that you can't learn how to be sensitive as well.
Right. Okay. And that kind of leads into the next question.
No, I know. It's the whole thing's buffering. I've been sitting since all I get hands.
Okay. It looks like she's starting to come back a little bit. It kind of leads into the next question that Megan had. Were you born with your ability, or did it develop?
I've been here the whole time.
The answer to that, Mike, is I was born with it, but I didn't recognize it until I was 13 when my grandfather appeared to me in full color and scared the bejesus out of me. And then over time, after my life got in order, decades later, I was finally able to recognize the ability and enhance it to the point where I can get messages and understand.
Great. Okay, so Vanessa, it looks like you're back. I mean, on my end, it just looks like you were holding a cigarette to your mouth the whole time.
The whole time. You guys sounded like I was getting every third word. The whole thing was frozen.
Yeah, okay.
Is that weird? I don't even know why. I was sitting here trying to tell people in chat. I have a question for you, just because I heard ashes somewhere in there, okay? So I know you were talking about ashes.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on, because we all know that when somebody is cremated, it is not just their ashes. So how do you feel about there being basically multiple people inside of an urn and being taken into somebody's home? Well, you don't know who's in there.
Yeah, that's true. It has mild residual energy, so it's really not. I don't think it's really anything to worry about. It all depends on the emotional energy in the house that connects to the person in spirit, whether or not they're going to call them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true. I'm sorry. Someone asked me if I was going to start singing "Let It Go." from Frozen.
Right, and there was a comment in there about you taking like the longest drag ever. Did I have to ask you guys something? Did either one of you sigh? Like that whole little exchange there?
No.
Okay. It sounded like somebody sighed like right here by me. So okay.
No, sir.
You
Okay.
have a visitor, Mike.
Maybe. There is another question from the chat room for Rob, and it was from Emma, if I can find it again. She was wondering, how do you develop those abilities better?
Actually, that's actually why I wrote a couple of books, so that you can learn how to look for the signs. And one way to do this is to close your eyes and trust what you get. If you hear things, words, or see pictures of things that you cannot associate with your own life, or that you would never think of, then they're likely messages from somebody else. So trust them. You can also go into, what I did is I started going into historic mansions, and I tried to figure out who was there. And I would get messages, and then I would go check with the docent of the mansion and find out who lived there. And then I would piece together whether or not that was, in fact, one of the residents. And when I started doing that, I got hits every time I went into a place.
That's honestly the best way to do it. That, in my personal opinion, people always ask me, what is the best piece of paranormal equipment you can use?
It's your body.
And it is a piece of paper and a pen and your brain.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you go into the place without knowing anything about it.
Absolutely.
And you can verify all later. To me, you do not get better evidence than that. That's how I've done this for decades, and it's I don't. I'm not even embarrassed to say that, Rob.
You cut out there for a minute, Vanessa. I think there's a spirit behind you that keeps playing with your video.
Yes, there's a few. It's not the mean one. So that's all I care about. As long as it's not the mean one, I'm fine.
Okay.
I don't like the mean one.
But
it's not nice to me.
That is a good reminder that we do keep our memories and our personalities when we pass. So if you're a jerk in life, you're going to be a jerk in death, and if you're nice in life, you're going to be nice in death.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's pretty much what we always say. I'm trying to locate a question here because I saw Shana post, "Hey Mike, don't forget Donna's question about the radio," and I'm not finding it. And Vanessa's breaking up again.
She's breaking up again.
Yeah.
Breaking up is hard to do,
All right. Well, okay. It is. While I look for that question, Donna Gorton says, Rob, is there a way to get on the same wavelength with living animals versus ones who have passed?
Yeah.
Vanessa started to say something. I don't hear her anymore, though.
No, I'm good. You go.
Okay. Well, it's all about energy and interpretation. With live animals, I'm actually really great at communicating with my own 3 dogs because I can read their energy. You just know their emotions, their body language, the way they look at you, and so forth. You just really have to pay attention to detail. In terms of pets who have passed, that opens up a whole other area. I mean, they communicate the same way that human spirits do. I mean, dogs specifically have the intelligence of a 3 to 5 year old child, human child. So, they know language, they know what you look like, they can describe and project what somebody looks like to a medium. So that's how I know who is on the other side with somebody's pet. I can describe them. So all kinds of things. There's all kinds of levels of intelligence that I talk about in the Pets in the Afterlife books. But animal communicators work with live animals. Mediums work with their past.
Okay. I believe I found the question. And I heard Vanessa, but she's not moving. Okay.
I'm stuck and stupid.
So Donna Bucksbaum says that it seems like an insane coincidence, but on several occasions that when she's specifically taking some sort of spiritual risk or challenge, inevitably the same song will play. So I guess it's your take on specific music that plays when somebody gets into this different situations.
Yeah, music is actually a very common way that spirit communicates with us from the other side. So that whatever song that is directly attached to a spirit that she knows on the other side that's probably assisting her. A case in point, my mother communicates a lot through song. My mother loved certain songs.
Okay.
And I happened to be thinking about her when I went into a CVS last year. And the first song that came over the intercom was one of her all-time favorite songs. It was one by Fleetwood Mac. And as that song played, I happened to be looking for a card. And the first card I pulled out, without even knowing what was on it, was a poodle. And my mother's favorite dog was a poodle. So my mother's favorite song played, and I picked out a card that had her favorite dog.
Nice.
And so I knew that she was right with me.
Yeah.
So that's what music means.
Okay. All right. One last question from the chat room, and then we're gonna have to wrap it up because we've gone an hour. Tammy Sifford asks, "Is Rob getting anyone from the chat's loved one that has passed?" So I don't know if you've been tuned into the chat at all.
No, actually, I'm not on the chat.
All right.
I'm too busy looking over here at the screen.
Right. Okay.
So no, but they're always welcome to email me at rgutro@gmail.com and ask any questions about their loved ones. I don't charge for readings. I'll answer questions from loved ones if I can tune into them. I get barraged with pet requests.
Right.
I get about 40 a week now from all over the world. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. But so be patient. And I'll be happy.
It takes a lot of energy.
It does, yeah. So I usually do them on the weekends.
That's a lot on the weekends. Damn. By the way, Mike, I don't know if you heard, but the whole chat, not tonight, but on the last one, decided that our show needed to be 2 hours.
I caught a little bit of that.
Yeah.
The thought has crossed my mind, but I don't know, because I've done plenty of 2-hour interviews before, and it's like while an hour doesn't seem long enough, a lot of times, sometimes 2 hours seems too long. So
maybe an hour and a half.
Maybe an hour and a half. We'll have to talk about it. Leave it up to the chat. I don't know. They like Mad Hatters. Maybe they'll like an hour and a half. So leave your comments below.
Mike, wasn't it P.T. Barnum that said always leave them wanting more?
True enough. Always leave them wanting more.
That's why they come back.
7 minutes.
So Rob, how can everybody find you?
Well, if you look under a rock, then maybe no.
Just drive to Maryland.
If you go on Facebook, you can find me on just type in Rob Gutro, and you can find me at Rob Gutro Author Medium. Actually, if you type in robgutro.com or spiritpets.com, it goes right to my blog.
Okay, cool.
And Mike, if you could just throw up the Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff on your page, I won't have to rattle it off.
I'll get that on there, and I'll put it once this video goes up. After the archives and all that stuff, I'll add all the links and everything into there as well. So future viewers will see all those links and everything below.
All those crazy links, yeah. But they can find me like they can find you on Amazon.com, and I just want to take a minute to say thank you for allowing me to share a couple of stories in your 2 books, 2 of your books rather.
Yeah, Encounters with the Paranormal.
means a lot.
Oh, absolutely. You're a fantastic writer, great friend, and you're welcome to contribute a third, because we are doing a third Encounters with the Paranormal. So if you have anything you'd like to add again, by all means.
I have plenty of pet stories for you.
That'd be great.
Speaking of, Mike, I forgot to send that, so I'm on it. I promise.
All right.
Okay? And I have the list of everybody that was in the chat, so can I shout out?
Go ahead. Vanessa wants to shout out. Go ahead. Yeah. Usually I'm the one shouting out, but go ahead.
Yeah, this is for everyone who was in the chat. Donna Gordon, Tammy Sifford, Diane Hilbert, Sharmy Babensply, Scott Latia, Starry Night, Stephen Curry, Joanne Rubino, Shanna the Shananigator, Zoe Small, Beat 3 Airspace, Carrie Parrish, Real Paranormal Activity, I don't know which one, Lynn's White, Luli Tooby, Donald McGuire, Lenore Martinez, Angela Holwyn, whole other page, Emma Bejic, Spooky and Raven, Megan Talbert, Bethany, Robert White, Super Woody Boy, love that name. Can't help it. Ghostly Cowboy, Kirsten Phillips, Miss Paula the Witch, Jade Medford, Athena Brown, Tammy Heitzman, Point of Ascension, Ectovision, Elizabeth Barnett, Tina Olzak, Gwen Clapper from BPI, Don Juan, Design Imaging, Linda Miller, and Athena Brown. I wrote them all down.
Yeah, a couple of those. Ectovision was Sean Gilmore, and Design Imaging was Donna Buxbaum. So
there we go.
Awesome. Thank you, Vanessa. Yeah, because you locked up, you were able to grab the chance.
I was.
Nice.
Quite a tea party up there.
So I really do want to thank all of you for chatting, and for Shana, our chat Shananigator, and keeping things rolling in the chat. You guys are our Mad Hatters. So we're all a little mad here. So, and also, that invitation for Rob to contribute, and of course Vanessa, to the next Encounters with the Paranormal 3, that is going to help the Mineral Springs Hotel in Alton, Illinois. That's where those proceeds will be going, just like with this one, where part of the proceeds are going to the Goldenrod Showboat. So if you don't have this one yet, go ahead and get it. Also, like I said earlier, you can just go to goldenrodshowboat.com, help them out with a little bit of something there, because they're gonna need it with the flooding there with the Goldenrod. So I guess that's about it. We got our ghosty, and he didn't have a sock today. Rob, all I have to do is say sock, and she's gone. And someone out there's got to say ectogasm. 1, 2, 3, ectogasm. There we go. Rob's like, what in the world are they talking about?
It's late. I know it's late.
You're a mess. You're a mess.
All right, well, Rob, thanks again for coming out tonight. I really appreciate it. We'll have to have you on again down the road, and really happy that we didn't have any technical difficulties this time, like the first time we had you on.
Yes, thank you so much, and I will leave you with a plea to all to just spay and neuter your pets and adopt from shelters, because there's so many dogs and cats that get euthanized every day that we can save more. Thank you.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right. Well, for Rob Gutro, Vanessa Hogle, my co-host, I'm Mike Ricksecker, and of course Shana Wankel, our chat Shananigator down there. Thank you, everybody. Until next time.